In the Ielts test, you hear some recordings and you have to answer questions on them. You have time to read the instructions and questions and check your work. All recordings are played only once. The test is in 4 sections. Now turn to Section 1. Section 1. You will hear a conversation between a man and a woman discussing lost property at a cinema. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. Now the full test will begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, as the recording is not played twice. Listen carefully to the conversation and answer questions 1 to 5.
Good morning. Do you work here at this cinema?
Yes, I do. My name's Angela. Can I help you?
I was here last night watching a film, and I think I dropped my wallet under my seat.
Oh, I don't have the keys for the lost property drawer. I can take some information for you, and I'll get Mr. Smith to call you when he comes in. He's in charge of lost property.
That'll be fine.
What's your name?
Peter Simpson. Simpson is spelled Simpson.
And can you let me know your address?
I live at 13 Winchester Road, Alton.
And the postcode?
It's W12 7RT.
Now, I need a contact telephone number for you.
I'll give you my mobile number, as that'll be more convenient. It's 01743 062 496.
Thanks. Now, what film were you watching?
It was the new Spider-Man movie.
What showing did you see?
It was the one that began at 7:30 p.m.
Do you remember where you were sitting?
Yes, I still have my ticket. Here it is. I was in seat F23. There was only one other person near me in G24, so my wallet shouldn't have been found by another customer.
Thanks.
Before the conversation continues, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen carefully and answer questions 6 to 10.
Now, could you give me some details about the content of your wallet?
Well, I had some cash, around £20 I think. Then there were my bank cards, my debit card and credit cards.
Have you cancelled them yet?
Yes, I did that this morning when I realised that my wallet was missing. I don't keep a note of the PIN numbers in my wallet, so the cards should be safe.
Anything else?
My company ID is in there. That's a card that I swipe when I go into work. I usually have my company photocopy card in there as well, but for some reason I left that on my desk.
Okay, I've made a note of that.
Next week I'm coming back to the cinema for another film. I bought the ticket last night, so that is in the wallet too. I'm also going to the theatre, but that ticket is in the glove compartment of my car.
Anything else? We've had people who lost wallets with hotel card keys, library cards, health insurance cards, passports, and lots of other things.
Yes, you're right. I do have my health insurance card in there. I'd forgotten. But that's it.
Right then. Thanks very much, Mr. Simpson. I'm sorry I can't tell you more right now, but I'll give this information to Mr. Smith the moment he gets in, and I'll make sure he calls right away.
Thanks very much. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
That is the end of Section 1. You will now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to Section 2. Section 2. You will hear a woman telling some people about the organization of a conference. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15. Now listen carefully to the information talk and answer questions 11 to 15.
Good morning and welcome to this first talk of the Conference on the Conservation of Natural Resources. My name is Linda. Before we start with our first official speaker, I'd like to tell you a little about the organization of the event. First of all, I'd like to tell you that within the conference areas, all your food and non-alcoholic drinks are free, as the costs have been included within the price of your ticket. All you need to do is to show the blue identification card that you were issued when you registered. If you wear it around your neck with the string provided, then it is easily seen and not easy to lose. If you do lose it, please come to see me at my catering desk with some identification and I'll issue you a new one. As you came into the conference area earlier through the main entrance, you will have seen a large rectangular room, which is the conference reception room. The catering desk is in this room, just to the right of the conference entrance as you come in. If you have not yet officially registered, you can do that at the registration desk across the room directly opposite my catering desk. Again, just bring a piece of identification. We know that some of you will not have yet organized anywhere to stay. If you'd like some help with that, you can visit our accommodation desk, which is found to the left of the registration desk as you come into the conference reception room. The bathrooms are between these two desks. We have agreed some special rates at some nearby hotels that also have free shuttle services to and from this conference center. You won't find a better deal. During the conference, there will be 2 speeches going on at any one time. After the opening speech that follows my talk, you can choose to stay in this hall, which is Lancaster Hall, or go to the other hall, which is Kensington Hall. Lancaster Hall, which is the one we are in right now, is through the only door in the right-hand wall of the conference reception room, and Kensington Hall is directly opposite. Plans and schedules are available on the desk on the left of the conference reception room entrance as you come in. Please help yourself.
You now have some time to look at questions 16 to 20. Now listen to the rest of the information talk and answer questions 16 to 20.
And now, before the opening speech, I'd like to tell you about the refreshments organized for this event. In the mornings before the first speeches, we will have tea, coffee, juices, and water along with some fruit available on tables. Please help yourselves, but please don't take food or drinks into the conference halls. Just leave used crockery on the tables provided. Lunches will be served in the conference center's restaurant. To get there, leave our conference area and go up to the second floor by lift, escalator, or stairs. You will see the restaurant there easily. In the restaurant, the food will be served cafeteria style, so that the large number of people can be handled efficiently. There will be starters, soups, and salads available as well as main courses. The main course will have 2 meat options, 1 vegetarian option, and 1 vegan option. There will be the usual side dishes such as potatoes, pasta, rice, and a range of vegetables. There will also be a choice of desserts and fruit to finish your meal. Drinks are also available in the restaurant. As I said before, everything soft will be free of charge, but you will have to pay extra for things like wine and beer. Tea and coffee will be available in the restaurant as well. In the afternoon, we will serve tea in the conference area. However, if the weather is good, we will serve the tea on the terrace. Tea, coffee, juices, and water will be available to drink, and to eat there will be a selection of sandwiches, cakes, and biscuits. These will be laid out for you, so just help yourselves. If you have any queries or complaints, please come and see me. In the morning and afternoons, I will be at the catering desk, and at lunchtimes I will be stationed in the restaurant. I'll stop now and hand you over to our first official speaker.
That is the end of Section 2.
Section 3. You will hear two students and their tutor discussing a wildlife presentation. First, you will have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
Hi, Katie. Hi, Ian. Come on in.
Hi, Professor Gordon. We wanted to talk to you about our wildlife presentation next week.
Have you decided how to organise it?
Yes, Professor. At first, we were going to focus on the cat family, but then we decided to talk about nocturnal animals instead.
Yes, good idea. And how is your planning going?
It's going well. We think we have enough material for 20 minutes. The advantage is that there are so many visual aids we can use. We found lots on the internet which we think will be really interesting for people.
The problem is that this topic has been hard to narrow down. If anything, we've got too much information for just 20 minutes. How do you think we could narrow it down further?
It is a broad subject. There are a few ways you could do it, but I'd recommend just looking at a representative sample of nocturnal animals, just 4 or 5.
Yes, and maybe we could choose one animal from each continent, or a land creature, a marine creature, and a winged animal.
I like the idea of separating it by different types of animals. And if we limit the detail, we'll definitely have enough time.
But don't limit the detail too much. Also, think how you're going to interest the audience.
Well, we're going to have a picture for each animal so we can talk through the picture.
That's a nice idea, but don't limit yourself to pictures. If you can find any clips of the animals, use them. Showing brief video clips can keep an audience interested.
I'll look on the internet tonight.
And think of questions to ask your audience. People like to be involved.
Yes, that's a great idea. Anyway, Professor, we've been practicing our presentation and we'd like to show you a small section. Is that okay?
Well, we just have a couple of minutes left, but go ahead.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 27 to 30.
Well, we were thinking of presenting each animal with a picture and describing their physical characteristics.
Okay, but not in too much detail. That's just background information.
We'll start with the jaguar. I'll introduce it by saying that the jaguar is a nocturnal animal and the only species of the genus Panthera to be found in the Americas. Like any cat, it has whiskers and it can move quickly. Its spine has great movement, meaning a jaguar can take long strides, sometimes up to 5.5 meters. This can make it a deadly predator, as you can imagine. Moving on to the fur, its fur is quite distinct. The markings are like black donut-shaped spots on its otherwise yellow fur. People often confuse them with a leopard for this reason. Now, the tail is interesting. Although people think that the tail has stripes on it, the fur on the tail actually is similar to the body, with black circles around the lower section. The jaguar is generally a creature to be feared. Oh, yes, I should have mentioned this earlier. Sorry, like most cats, it has sharp, retractable claws.
Yes, that's fine, but be careful. The jaguar is usually thought of as nocturnal, but strictly speaking, it's crepuscular. In other words, most active between dusk and dawn. But as long as you mention this, you can put it under the umbrella of nocturnal. Is that all?
Yes, I think so. Thanks, Professor.
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
We'll hear an introduction of the exhibition named 2 Centuries of the Bike. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you to our exhibition, 2 Centuries of the Bike. Let's stroll around the exhibition, shall we? Although there were a few early efforts back in the 1700s, you didn't really see many bikes till, say, the 1830s in England. Bikes were a response to the rapid growth of cities early in the 19th century. Cities like London were getting too big to walk across. The early bike let people travel with less effort than walking. Plus, a bike was a lot cheaper than a horse. Think of it. No one invented a bike for, 5,000 years of human history. Why did people do it then? Probably because this was the start of the machine age. People wanted machines to do all the work. There were some drawbacks, however. For one thing, there were no pedals. You simply pushed yourself along using your feet, kind of like today's skateboard. That meant you went fairly slow, and uphill you actually worked harder, pushing that two-wheeler. Plus, the wheels were made of wood covered with metal, as you can see from this model. So the downside was that the ride was quite uncomfortable on most roads. Only a few gadget lovers had or used them. By the 1860s, though, improvements were being made. As you can see from this specimen, metal frames had become the rule. They are more durable than wood, and they don't warp in the rain. The biggest improvement, however, was the development of the chain and sprocket system. They are connected. This meant you did not push the bike. You used pedals, just like today. You had to try harder to balance, so it took some practice to figure out how to use the pedals. But it made the ride so much easier. As a result, the good thing was that you could ride a lot more smoothly and with very little effort. By the 1880s, another big change was the use of rubber wheels. These became pretty common at that time. Though the first ones were solid rubber, the ride was a good deal more comfortable than the old iron and wood system. This is a big consideration, because the faster you go, the more you feel every bump. Air-filled tyres, pneumatic tyres, didn't really come into use till around the year 1900, as you can see from this exhibition over here. That made the ride even more comfortable. So by 1890 or so, people were going a lot faster and a lot more smoothly. There was one problem when you were going quickly and comfortably. Oh no, how do I stop? Yes, we all laugh now, but for a long time the only way to stop was to drag your feet. That didn't work very well, and it would be dangerous if you were going fast. In the crowded cities of those years, New York, Chicago, and so on, you would get killed if you couldn't stop for, say, a streetcar. Plus, look at this bike. The front wheel is nearly 1 metre and 2/3 tall. They made them that way so you could see over people and wagons, but you couldn't drag your feet. This model is called a velocipede, a speed pedal. Another characteristic of the bike in this period is that it has two equal-sized wheels, which signalled a big change in bikes. For with the velocipede, brakes appeared. If you wanted to stop, you just pushed the pedal backwards. Doing that stopped the back wheel of the bike. This technique worked a lot better than dragging your feet or jumping off the high seat there. This meant that bikes became a great deal safer. It would have been safer if people wore helmets, but the first bicycle helmet wasn't invented until years later, and even then it was little more than a leather ball cap. It really wasn't until the 1970s that the bike helmet was modified to provide some real protection. Before continuing on to look at developments since the 1890s, let's say a word more about safety. Everyone knows if you're going downhill, you can get going dangerously fast. To go more than 100 kilometers an hour isn't all that difficult. But even on level ground, it's easy to go too quickly. On a city street, today's bicycles can be ridden at a speed of over 40 miles an hour over a short distance. That's about 64 kilometers an hour. Remember, you're on a bike, not in a car. There's nothing to protect you. People are killed in single bicycle accidents every day, just from hitting the road. A good rule to remember is, if you're going faster than the cars, slow down. And please wear a helmet. Nearly 1/4 of the epilepsy cases come from head injuries in accidents on bikes and motorcycles. I don't mean to scare you, but safety is everyone's business. What? Now that's a good question. Why are today's bikes so much faster? Well, it's not just that today's athletes are faster. The answer is partly mechanical. If you look closely here at the back wheel, you'll see a number of gears. Changing gears is what makes those fast speeds possible. You can shift gears depending on the terrain and how hard you wish to pedal. So you can put it on a higher gear for downhill and a lower gear for uphill travel to make it easier to climb that slope. You'll notice this gear shifting mechanism is attached to the back wheel, and when the rider shifts on the handlebar gear shifter, the chain moves to the appropriate sprocket. And, speaking of changing gears, let's look over here at our Tour de France exhibit.
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers.